already primed and set down the primer on my eyelids and also put liner on the top portion of my eye as I normally do. I am then going to go into the palette and start out with the shade Paranormal, which is this one right here. And I'm going to start carving out my crease. So that's all the color I needed to kind of start carving out the crease. And then I am going to grab, and actually I'm sorry, the brush I used to do that with is the Juvia's Place J125 blender, which is a bigger fluffy brush. And then the one I'm going to use now is also from Juvia's Place. It's the J127. It's just a smaller, fluffier brush as well. And what I'm going to do is I am going to pick up the shade Purple Rain, which is right there. Then I'm going to start that in the crease area, so just a little lower than where I started before with the first shade. And I'm going to go back and forth in windshield wiper motions on the crease line itself. I am not going to go on the lid because, as you can see from my other eye, I decided to do a halo eye look today, so we don't want to fill up the entire lid. These shadows are extremely pigmented, as you can see. I just grabbed a little, still tapped off the excess and still have a really good amount of color. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing it to the outer corner there so we can start creating that halo effect. And I'm keeping my brush just in that outer V portion. And little, you know, like starting out in a small amount, not going in too quick, is always a good idea, because sometimes when you're, you know, kind of putting your brush back and forth, it can get out of control quickly and you can get into that middle section where you don't want to get into. So as you can see, I'm just going back and forth in those same areas and just deepening up the color. So I went back into the palette, just deepening up the color. I'm going to clean the corner of the eye as I normally do with a makeup remover wipe, so I'm not worried as far as it coming out too far. I just want to make sure that where that color is going to be left, it's very prominent. So I'm just going back into those sections, and then in that inner corner, again, just sticking very close to that inner corner so that I don't lose that halo effect that I want. Then I'm going to grab a fluffy brush, and you can grab anything that you have that you like to blend out with. And I'm just going to go up top with that purple and just start softening the edges. Then I am going to go back into the palette. I am going to go into Gold Nectar, which is this shade right here. I am going to be using a ColourPop brush. Again, as I say all the time, ColourPop brushes do not have names or numbers, but it's basically kind of this flat synthetic looking brush that could probably be used for like concealer or something like that. I just like it because of the shape, and it covers a pretty big area. I have smaller flat synthetic brushes, but I like this one because again, it just covers a big area. So I'm going to wet that with my MAC Fix Plus. I'm just going to dab it a little bit to get off that excess moisture, and then I'm going to dip into that Gold Nectar. Then I'm going to go into that area that you see that's clear of any color in the middle and just start kind of working that out to create the same effect that I did here. Of course, I have to go above the natural crease, so I'm always, you know, trying to get that perfect shape. What I personally find very helpful, especially since I have hooded eyes, is that if I'm doing a halo eye, I'll kind of stop, look in the mirror, make sure that if I'm looking at someone straight ahead, I'm not losing any of that color, because right now if I'm looking at you straight ahead, on this side, I'm losing a lot of that gold. So I am going to go ahead and go even higher above the crease. So that is going to do it as far as placement goes, because when I'm looking straight ahead, I still have some of that gold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the fluffy brush again just to blend that out a bit and to soften up some of those edges up top. We will go back with the purple to intensify it again because you're going to lose a lot of that while you're blending out that gold. So I'm going to grab the Juvia's Place J127 Precision again. I'm going to dip into Purple Rain. And I'm going to start deepening up the corners and the inner corner as well again. And then I will go ahead above the gold across the eyelid to make sure that we have that color back. Then I'm going to go back in with the fluffy brush and start blending that out again. I'm going to go back to the Juvia's Place J125 blender. This is the one that I used at the beginning, which is a little fluffier. And then I'm going to pick up the pink, which is Rose Risque right here. I'm going to pick up the tiniest amount because as you can see here, you can see it, but it's not so prominent that it overpowers the purple. So I'm going to pick up a small amount, tap off the excess, and start going above the purple just a bit, but it's like half on the eyelid and half on the purple because I'm also using this to blend out the purple a little more. And then because I want to be just a little extra, as you can see, I have glitter on this side. I just put it kind of halfway down because I'm going to put liner, and a lot of times when you're putting on liner over glitter, it can get kind of funky depending on how chunky the glitter is. So I just went down halfway because I'm going to have the liner, I'm going to have the lashes, and that's pretty much going to cover the lower part of my eye. But as you can see, this is what, you know, without obviously finishing off the rest of the face, this is what the top would pretty much look like if you didn't want to do glitter. It's still an absolutely beautiful look. The gold and the purple go absolutely beautifully together. But like I said, I am going to add a little bit of glitter. And I am using the Stila Glitter and Glow liquid eyeshadow, and this is in Gold Goddess. So I'm going to grab the tiniest amount. What I did on the other side is I just grabbed the applicator. I grabbed this Smashbox. This is supposed to be a precision concealer brush, and I'll show you what that looks like. I love the pointed top there. I don't use this for concealer. So I just basically took the brush, put it on the applicator, just grabbed some of that gold, not too much, and then went ahead and applied it. Because of the pointed end, it helps me to stay basically at the line that I made with the gold earlier, so I kind of don't bypass that. And you can absolutely go all the way down on the eye with the glitter if you so choose. Again, I just didn't want to because the eyeliner situation, and because most of it on the bottom would get covered up anyway with the eyeliner and the lashes. So that's it, just a little bit of glitter to kind of bring a little more interest to the halo eye. And that's pretty much the top of the eyes done. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up underneath. I'm also then going to put on my winged liner, and then we'll be back to finish off the rest of the face. For primer today, I'm going to be going into my Becca Ever Matte Poreless Primer. You guys know this is one of my favorite primers because it really does keep my skin matte under any foundation, and I love that. For corrector today, I'm going to be using my Urban Decay Naked Skin in Deep Peach. This is really quickly becoming one of my favorites, if not my favorite corrector. Because A, it works, but B, I love the doe foot applicator. It's just so easy to apply without digging my finger into something or needing an extra brush to do that. I'm going to take my Real Technique sponge and just lightly tap that into the skin and make sure that it's blended on there, and blended to a point. Obviously you can still see the orange, but that will disappear with foundation and concealer. So for foundation today, I'm actually mixing two. I'm using my Estee Lauder Double Wear Makeup, and because this is just like a wee bit too light for me, I went ahead and added some of the Lancome Teint Idole makeup. As you can see, that is super dark. That is in what shade? 500 Suede W, I think it is. So these two together, you know, just adding that dark foundation into the lighter one just really makes it perfect for my skin right now. So I'm just swiping this on my skin with a flat foundation brush, but then I'm going to use my damp beauty blender to get it all over the skin. For concealer today, I am going to be using my Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, and this is in the shade Tan. I'm just going to put a little bit because this foundation is pretty full coverage, and I did put a little bit under my eyes, so I'm just going to take a small amount of that. And then I'm just going to use the pointed end of the damp beauty blender to blend that into the skin. To set the concealer under my eyes, I am going to be using my Anastasia Banana Powder, and I'm just using a Juvia's Place J123 Tapered blush, but I use it under my eyes because I love the shape. It just fits perfectly under there, and it's not too big, and because the point kind of just stays with that shape, it's just perfect to do that. So I actually don't need to set this foundation with powder. I set up top just a bit because that's my more oily area on my face. But as I'm looking at it right now, I don't feel like I need to add any more powder to this makeup look. So we're gonna go ahead and finish off the bottom of the eyes, just moving some of my stuff here. So we're gonna go back into the McGrath palette, and I am going to grab my BH Cosmetics V9, which if you could see there, it's like a pointer brush. So it really holds its shape well, or pencil brush, I guess, if you will. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to start out with the darkest color that we used, which was Purple Rain. That's what we have pretty much all over the eye. And I am going to start basically lining the bottom of the eyes with this color. But these shadows, you know, doing the bottom of my eyes with shadows, usually I start out with a pencil and then add shadow on top of that. These are just so damn pigmented that it is so easy with this type of like a pencil brush, very stiff, thin brush, to just get great coverage. I'm going to grab an e.l.f. contour brush, which that's the way it looks like. It's kind of short and stubby because what I want to do is I really want to smoke out the bottom. So I'm actually going to dip this, just like the corner of it, back into that Purple Rain shade. I'm going to tap that off, and then I'm going to start smudging that out so that we can really smoke this out and have it blown out very soft and not so harsh. The other thing about like having eyelashes in the bottom, and I've said this before, I forget what video it was, that as you're placing color under there and kind of smudging things out and blowing things out, the lashes tend to take on a lot of that color. So they look thicker, they look fuller, and things just look much more smoky if that's the look you're going for on the bottom, as opposed to not having lashes and just kind of, how should I say it, relying on the shadow itself to kind of look really smoky without that added, you know, the added eyelashes and that sort of thing. So I styled my hair, I put on some lashes, and I also lined my lips just in the spirit of saving time. So for the lashes, I used my velour lashes in see-through. These are actually on their way out. I do have to order another 2 pairs, only because these are my favorite. kind of high volume lashes that really give the eye that va-va-voom look when you're looking for that type of finish. I do use an everyday lash when I want something a little more subtle. Those are the Kiss lashes in the style Little Black Dress, and I have talked about those before. They're just perfect, especially because I don't have lashes. I don't necessarily flock towards these type of really, really dramatic lashes, but with a look like this, I thought that they were, it was appropriate for these lashes. So for lip liner, I used my NARS lip liner in Lavandou, and then I'm gonna go in with the NARS PowerMatte Lip Pigment in London Calling, which is really one of my very favorite matte liquid lipsticks. And because I want to go ahead and add a little shine to it, I am going to be using a lip gloss from Buxom. This is in the shade Gabby. This was part of a Christmas collection I had gotten some time ago. I'm going to put just the smallest amount just to add a little more interest to the lips. And I meant the smallest amount. So let's go ahead and talk about the McGrath Palette. I already own her Dark Star 006 set, and I've talked about that before on my channel. I've shown it to you. I've done a look with it as well. It is one of my favorite, if not my favorite set of eyeshadows that I own. Her stuff is expensive, there's absolutely no doubt about that, but the Dark Star 006 set was one of the very best purchases I have ever made. In my entire collection of makeup, I do not regret spending the money that I spent on that. And I did also get, I believe, a discount because, you know, she like gave out a code before it actually went on sale, and you were able to save like 10%, which 10% is not a huge amount. It brought the price down to $117 for the set. Again, an expensive, collection of eyeshadows, but still very well worth the money. Looking at what I was doing on my eyes in this video, you could tell that the pigmentation was absolutely there, the blendability absolutely there. A lot of times when you get into these high pigment eyeshadows, and you pop them on the eye, sometimes you can't blend them out. So if you were to pop your brush like on the outer corner and you can't really blend that out, you got a big concentration of color there. That is not the case with this set, with this palette, I should say. And that was very, very prevalent on camera. As I'm looking in the mirror, I noticed that things were blending out beautifully. A little goes such a long way with this palette. Now, I don't own the other two that she came out with, so of course I can't speak to them, but this palette alone, knowing how little of each color that it takes to create something like this, I know I'm going to have this palette for a very long time. So let's go ahead and start with this packaging. As you can tell, of course, it's smaller than her Mothership palettes. The Mothership palettes are also in lacquer boxes, which this has a cardboard packaging, but very, very nice. I love the artwork on the palette. So even though it's not lacquer, it's not lackluster. You have her logo here in kind of like a raised gold foil, and then you have the information of the palette. And this, of course, is La Vie en Rose. And then in the back, it gives you all of the information as far as ingredients for each of the shades. This has a 12-month shelf life, and the net weight in total is 12 grams. So the front is kind of that little elastic opening, and then you're gonna pop open the top, and then I'm going to try not to blind you, but you do get a mirror here, and then you get your shadows here. So starting, I'm going to try to do it this way, starting at the top here with what I used. Actually, I'm going to have to turn it around, I'm sorry. So let's start at the bottom right here, okay? So this is what I put on the inner corner of my eye. That color right there is going to be Pale Fire. The one next to it that I used pretty much all over my eye is Purple Rain. The gold next to it is Gold Nectar. Now starting up top here where I'm touching with my finger, that is going to be Paranormal. The one in the middle, which is the gorgeous pink, is Rose Risque. And then that last one I did not dip into, which almost looks like a purple duochrome. That color is called Euphoria. So as you could see, the palette size or the pan sizes are not, you know, horrendously small. They have a good amount. But again, the fact that it doesn't take a lot for these colors to really show up on your eyes, you don't have to necessarily continue dipping into each pan to get a really, really striking look, is the thing that as I was putting on the shadows, both on the eye that I did off camera and even when I was back on camera, just really struck me because it's gonna last a long time. So this palette retails for $55. If the $125 price tag of the large mothership palettes is something that every time you look at it you cringe like myself, even though you really, really want one, this may be more up your alley. Again, I don't own the other two, but the other two are more bronzy looks and more neutral type of looks. I like the fact that she came out with these smaller palettes. I love these colors. As you know, these are colors that I use on my channel a lot. I love my purples and my pinks. The gold is absolutely gorgeous. If she were to come up with a couple of more smaller palettes that can incorporate maybe a blue look and maybe a green look and other things like that, I think it might be better for those of us who don't want to spend $125 on one of the large palettes. Also because we may not use all the colors. I'm sure all of the shades are absolutely brilliant. I'm sure the quality is absolutely there, but in looking at a lot of these palettes, I see a couple of colors that I really love, and then the rest kind of hit the back of my mind. So $125 for a larger palette, if you can get a small palette with colors that you're going to use perhaps all 6 colors. I mean, even today I believe I didn't use just one color, so I used everything else that was in this palette. So right there, I know that I'm going to get my money's worth out of this palette. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. Pat McGrath has a great formula for her eyeshadow, so I can't say no, don't get it. The price tag is expensive, but you are getting what you pay for. If you're getting what you pay for and you're going to be using it constantly, you're going to get your money's worth. So hell yes, absolutely would recommend this. So thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your day with me. I hope this is a look that you enjoyed seeing me put together. I love the way this look came out. I'm all about a purple smoky eye. Love Pat McGrath shadows. This did not disappoint. So I'm hoping that she comes up with some more in the future, smaller size for us that don't want to spend $125. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also click that little bell so you get alerted as to whenever I upload new content. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and I will see you in the next one. Bye.